Have you ever looked at someone sitting alone and immediately assumed they were lonely? Most people do. The moment they see someone eating alone, walking alone, or choosing silence over crowds, they jump to the same conclusion. They must have no one. But what if they're completely wrong? What if the person everyone feels sorry for is actually the strongest person in the room? This is one of the biggest misconceptions in modern society. We've been taught that being surrounded by people automatically means happiness, while being alone must mean sadness. But if that's true, why are so many people with hundreds of friends still unhappy? Why do so many people stay in toxic relationships just because they're afraid of being alone? The answer is simple. Most people don't fear loneliness, they fear meeting themselves. A Sigma sees solitude differently. He doesn't choose to be alone because life rejected him. He chooses it because he discovered something that most people never do. In silence, there are no masks to wear, no expectations to satisfy, and no pressure to become someone you're not. There's only you and the truth about who you really are. That's why people often misunderstand Sigma men. They mistake independence for isolation. They mistake peace for sadness. They mistake confidence for arrogance. But the reality couldn't be more different. A Sigma doesn't become weaker by spending time alone. He becomes stronger because every quiet moment teaches him something the outside world never could. So before you assume someone is lonely just because they're alone, ask yourself one question. Asterisk, what if the life everyone envies is actually being built in complete silence? In today's video, you'll discover why people confuse solitude with loneliness and why they're completely wrong. Asterisk 1. They mistake peace for loneliness. One of the biggest reasons people misunderstand Sigma men is because they confuse peace with loneliness. In today's world, being constantly surrounded by people has become the standard. If someone spends most of their time alone, many immediately assume they're unhappy, isolated, or struggling to connect with others. But that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. A Sigma doesn't choose solitude because nobody wants to be around him. He chooses it because he has learned that peace is far more valuable than constant company. Over the years, he begins to notice that many social interactions are filled with unnecessary drama, competition, gossip, and pressure to fit in. Instead of allowing those things to consume his energy, he quietly steps away. This decision often surprises people because they measure happiness by the number of friends someone has, rather than the quality of their life. A Sigma measures happiness differently. For him, peace of mind is more important than popularity. He would rather spend an evening reading, exercising, learning a new skill, or simply enjoying silence than forcing himself into conversations that add no value. Ironically, the people who call him lonely are often the same people who cannot spend 10 minutes alone without reaching for their phones. A Sigma understands something they haven't yet realized. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Loneliness comes from feeling disconnected from yourself, while solitude often creates the deepest connection you'll ever have with your own mind. Asterisk 2. Solitude helps them discover who they really are. Another reason people misunderstand Sigma men is because they don't realize what solitude actually gives them. Most people spend their lives being influenced by the opinions of family, friends, coworkers, and social media. Little by little, they begin making decisions based on what others expect instead of what they truly want. A Sigma intentionally steps away from that noise because he understands that it's almost impossible to discover who you really are when everyone else is constantly telling you who you should become. Time alone allows him to think honestly about his goals, values, strengths, and weaknesses. It gives him the freedom to question ideas instead of blindly accepting them. During those quiet moments, he learns what genuinely makes him happy rather than what simply earns approval from other people. This process isn't always comfortable. In fact, it often requires facing uncomfortable truths about himself. But instead of avoiding those truths, the Sigma uses them as opportunities to grow. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every mistake becomes experience. Every period of solitude becomes another step toward becoming the person he wants to be. That's why Sigma men often appear so confident. Their confidence wasn't borrowed from compliments or popularity. It was built through years of understanding themselves on a deeper level than most people ever attempt. Solitude doesn't change who they are, it reveals who they were all along. Asterisk 3. They build strength while everyone else seeks attention. Perhaps the biggest difference between Sigma men and most people is how they spend their time. While many individuals chase attention, approval, and recognition, the Sigma quietly invests in personal growth. He understands that attention is temporary, but skills, discipline, and knowledge stay with you for life. This is why solitude becomes such a powerful advantage. Every hour spent away from distractions becomes another opportunity to improve. While others argue online, he reads another chapter of a book. While others compare themselves to everyone around them, he works on becoming a better version of himself. While others seek validation from strangers, he develops confidence through consistent action. None of this happens overnight. Real strength is built slowly through small daily habits that most people never notice. Because the Sigma works in silence, others often underestimate him. They assume nothing is happening simply because they don't see immediate results. But one day, those quiet hours begin producing visible success. His mindset becomes stronger. His emotions become more stable. His decisions become wiser. Suddenly, people wonder how he changed so much. The truth is that the transformation didn't happen suddenly at all. It happened during all those quiet moments when nobody was watching. That's the hidden power of solitude. While the world is chasing attention, the Sigma is quietly building the strength that eventually makes attention unnecessary. Asterisk 4. They choose freedom over constant approval. One of the biggest reasons people misunderstand Sigma men is because they don't realize how much they value freedom. Most people spend a large part of their lives trying to earn approval. They change the way they dress, the way they speak, and even the way they think just to fit into a group or avoid criticism. At first, it seems harmless. Everyone wants to be accepted. But over time, constantly chasing approval becomes exhausting because it forces people to hide who they really are. A Sigma eventually realizes that no matter how hard you try, you'll never make everyone happy. Someone will always disagree with your choices, criticize your decisions, or misunderstand your intentions. Instead of wasting energy trying to please everyone, he makes a different choice. He chooses freedom, freedom to think independently, freedom to make decisions without asking for permission, freedom to walk away from situations that no longer align with his values. This is why solitude becomes so valuable to him. When he's alone, nobody is telling him how to live, what to believe, or who he should become. He learns to trust his own judgment instead of constantly depending on outside validation. Ironically, the moment a Sigma stops chasing approval is often the moment people begin respecting him the most. Real confidence isn't built by being accepted by everyone. It's built by knowing who you are even when nobody approves. Asterisk 5. They're not running away from people. They're running toward a better life. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about Sigma men is the belief that they isolate themselves because they're afraid of people. Nothing could be further from the truth. A Sigma isn't running away from relationships, conversations, or society. He's running towards something much more valuable, a better version of himself. Every decision he makes is guided by long-term growth rather than short-term comfort. While many people spend years trying to impress others, the Sigma quietly focuses on improving his skills, strengthening his mindset, protecting his peace, and creating a life he can genuinely be proud of. Solitude simply gives him the environment to do that without constant distractions. He understands that some of the greatest transformations happen when nobody is watching. The hours spent reading instead of scrolling through social media, exercising instead of complaining, learning instead of arguing, and reflecting instead of reacting slowly shape his future. At first, people may laugh at his lifestyle. They may call him lonely, antisocial, or strange. But years later, those same people often wonder how he became so disciplined, confident, and emotionally stable. They see the results, but never witnessed the quiet work that created them. That's the real power of solitude. It isn't about escaping the world. It's about building a life so meaningful that you no longer need constant attention to feel complete. While everyone else is chasing approval, the Sigma is chasing progress. And that's why people who once misunderstood him often end up admiring him later. As you've seen throughout this video, people often mistake solitude for loneliness because they only look at what's happening on the outside. They see someone standing alone and assume they're missing something. What they fail to realize is that some of the strongest people are built in silence. A Sigma doesn't choose solitude because he has no one. He chooses it because it's where he gains clarity, protects his peace, strengthens his mind, and builds a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. The truth is, loneliness comes from feeling empty inside. Solitude, on the other hand, can become one of the greatest tools for personal growth when you know how to use it. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Asterisk, do you think most people are afraid of being alone, or are they afraid of facing themselves? Share your answer in the comments below. I read as many comments as I can, and I'd love to know your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to asterisk subscribe as turn on the notification bell and join this community for more videos about the Sigma mindset, psychology, self-improvement, and mental strength. Thank you for watching. Stay focused, keep growing, and remember, sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need the room at all. See you in the next video.